Welcome to the Thriving Tides podcast. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Julianne. If you're an entrepreneur who loves self-care, you're in the right place.
We can't wait to share our experiences with you.
Welcome back. We're on another episode of Thriving Tides, and I'm feeling excited about our episode tonight.
I was going to say, this is totally up Julianne's alley. That's for sure.
It really is. So we're here to talk about habits. The good, the bad, the ugly, you know, what's easy, what's hard.
The lack thereof.
What's a habit?
Yeah, what is a habit?
Why is it important? We're going to cover a lot of different things. We've read a couple books. We, of course, have a lot of our own experience, and we just want to dive in and share. So let's do this.
So what is a habit, Julianne? Let's just start from square one from people like me.
What is a habit? It's really just like, I think we think habits are more complicated than they need to be. They're actually really something quite simple. It's something that we do on a regular basis.
I was going to say things like brushing your teeth, that's a habit. See, and it's funny because when I think of habits, I think of, developing habits. Because then there isn't really, you kind of develop it and it sticks. And then it's just the dominant habit that you don't really think about.
Yeah, like that is a true habit. Is something that you're just like on autopilot about.
Yeah.
And there's no like, there still is like a cue or a trigger or something like that. And we'll get into that a little bit too. But like your cue might be like, I woke up and I go brush my teeth, or I'm getting ready to go to bed and I go brush my teeth, like just to play off of the example that you gave. But like that's what a lot of people do on a regular basis. But like we'll stay in the dental world for a minute.
Brush your teeth.
Brush your teeth. But flossing.
Oh, yeah, that's a missed one that a lot of people don't do, hey? And that's a really important habit.
It is. But like, so it's we know it's important, but we're not doing it. And I think that's the case with a lot of things in our lives, not just flossing. And there could be a cue or a trigger or anything there, right? Or like you might just see it and ignore it. But yeah, it's so easy to just let things fall to the wayside, and it can be really hard to develop those new habits. And I'm really excited because we're going to talk a little bit, or probably a lot today, about Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before.
Yeah, if you've been watching our Instagram and Julianne's Instagram, she's been repping hard this book. I can't wait to borrow it.
It's very good. It's very good. It's actually not mine. I've borrowed it as well, but I might be able to
I gotta
blend
purchase
it. Books make the world go round, right? I truly believe. But I learned a lot reading this book, and I'm really excited to share it because what I love about it is that Gretchen talks about the fact that there's 4 different types of people, and that you build your habits differently depending on which category you fall into. And it made a lot of sense for me in who I am and what's been successful for me in the past and what's been really, really hard and why. So that's been really cool.
And that's super cool, too, because it ties back into even what we talk about here on the podcast, that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. And most habit books are this is what you need to do. Like another book that we also read together that we'll talk about, too, was Atomic Habits as well. And it was a little bit right there. But it was one of those things that it was very much this is the exact strategy and implementation you need to do to either install a good habit or destall a bad habit, if you will. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cool that there should be because we are all different. We all think differently. And I took the test too. I didn't read the book, but there's a little quiz that's attached to it too. But yeah, for Gretchen Rubin's, and we are the same tendency, which I found very interesting, which is really strange because we're so different. I'm kind of shocked about that, but
different but the same. But I love like what you were just saying. It's really good, like self-awareness, I find is like a through theme of almost all of the podcast episodes that we have, right? We're just like getting to know ourselves on a deeper level, understanding what works for us, what doesn't, what we like, what we dislike.
Exactly.
And so habits can be a big part of that. Why do you want to create a habit? Is it because you think you should, because the world is telling you to, or something that you really want to do? Like, we could get pretty deep talking about this here tonight.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can also even go even deeper and talk about bad habits and why we stick to bad habits as well, because I know that's one of my biggest things. It's not so much, I will say, it's not so much creating new habits. If I can find the right reason and the right motivation, I can usually stick to it somewhat. It's the bad habits that I'm like, and they kind of go hand in hand, which is the most ironic thing. And I do kind of like how they talked about that in the Atomic Habits, how it's almost a different way you have to manipulate how you create and or uncreate those habits, which I think is kind of interesting. Does she talk about that in her book?
She talks about so many things. I'm like,
go to the notes.
I think she does it in different ways.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like there's habits in our lives that we don't realize. Like there's different ways that we approach building the habits as well, depending on which type you are. Like there's it looks at it in so many different angles, which is really cool. I'm curious to know, like, so you said that you think you have a really easy time building a good habit when you have like the right reason.
And it has to be a really good reason.
So what's an example of a good habit that you've built?
Well, so the biggest one is the habit of the morning routine that we did do, and having that time for myself and actually creating the habit of getting into yoga and actually getting some physical activity, because I do work at a desk and I know it's not good for me, but instead of saying, oh, I want to be better for myself, it was more so I need to move because I want to stay healthy for other people. And we kind of talk about that in the Gretchen, like our results. And it's so true that I do things for other people more so than myself. This was the first time that I also did it for myself too. So I did sit back and said, okay, yoga does make me feel good. I'm feeling a little bit healthier, and I have also been working out a little bit more. Not in the last 2 weeks, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, I don't know. Habits are a weird thing for me because I do tend to, I'm one of those people that would start a habit and do it for 2 weeks and then I'd fall. In complete honesty, like that's just always been me. Because again, I do put myself before other people. So for example, I used to work out all the time in the mornings, but now it's kind of like, oh, well, James gets up, so I kind of want to spend some time with my husband. You know what I mean? Or, which I'm not blaming my husband at all, but other things like that. Or like people, like clients would be like, oh, I need this and that. And so I wouldn't work out after work because I'd be working late. Like this was past, like before Summer Street Creative. But that's just an example of something that I remember doing all the time when I used to work for like a business. I'd always manipulate my time for other people. And I kind of, when I took that test, I'm like, oh no, I know exactly what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think, so something that just triggered for me when you were talking about that too is I think we have a misconception that a habit has to be something that we do every single day.
Yes. Yeah.
But you could have a habit that's weekly or monthly, you know, depending on what it is. Like something with working out, you might not want to work out just once a month.
True.
But maybe the habit of, you know, making sure that your invoicing and expenses and everything for your business is all, you know, neatly tied up. Maybe that's something you want to do on a monthly basis or a biweekly basis so that you're not waiting till the end of the year and your accountant's breathing down your neck for your stuff, right? Like, so that we can look at things in a different way. It doesn't always have to be the act of a daily habit. And I think then that like just like opens our world up to see really and truly how many habits we might have in our lives that we're either really proud of and we want to keep, or that we're like, ooh, I really need to do some work here.
Yeah. So what would you say your biggest habits that you've implemented the last 6 months? Has there been any big ones, especially since reading the book? That I always find the books motivating because after I finished Atomic Habit, when I borrowed it from you, I was like, oh, I need to do this and that and that.
Like I gotta just change my life.
Things. Yeah, new me.
Yeah. I think it's what are some habits that I've built? I think it's like reinforcing a little bit too. Not working on the weekends. I don't know if that's a habit that I've built, but just like closing my computer and like putting it away. I guess that is in a sense a habit. Like,
well, you're deconstructing a bad habit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like trying to turn it into a more positive thing, I guess. My morning routine has been something that I've definitely upped my ante on, I guess. Like I used to just like, I've talked about this many a times on the episodes before too, that, you know, I've always loved getting up and working out in the morning, but putting in the time for like mindfulness, reflection, all that kind of stuff hasn't always been a super strong emphasis or a priority. But doing that now, in fact, now if I'm crunched for time, sometimes I will choose that over the physical movement because I just really like being able to do a bit of a brain dump or just like, you know, get my head in the game before my day starts rather than just like the physical body. So that's been a really nice one over the last little while, which I really like. The habit of turning off my ringer and either putting my phone like face down so I don't see notifications or putting it in the other room like on a Friday evening if I'm hanging out with Dave at home. That's been a really nice new habit of mine. It's been it was hard at first because I was like, oh, well, what if someone texts me or what if someone wants to check in? Well, like what's really that urgent for me on a Friday night? Right? Like I had to teach myself that. And like being present with him was much more important than responding to somebody's text or like checking in on Instagram or whatever. But so in a way, like I've created a good habit of doing that instead of also looking at it as like, because I have written in my notes like screen time or like my phone addiction is a bad habit. Yeah. But I like looking at things in a more positive light sometimes too, or looking at like, okay, what can I build instead of take away?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That just seems like, I don't know, like I don't like the act of taking away feels harder. Yeah. So instead, if I just say, no, this is a new habit I've built is putting my phone down and like putting it out of sight, out of mind, then that's been a really positive one for sure.
That's cool. And does she talk about that in the book or?
Yeah, like it's funny, like I'm looking at all the notes that I have. I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to like everyone to go read this book.
Today on the Thriving Tides book club.
It's a lot about like just getting to know yourself, right? Yeah. And like what's like that trigger for you or like what's the most meaningful? Like if it means something to you, then you're more likely to build it. Like if like Dave will literally be like, didn't know we were having a phone party tonight. Like he'll say things like that, which is great. He'll call me out on it. And I prefer to stay away from that and just like be like, no, we're here and we're having fun and everything's great. And I'm finding that that's actually now like in other parts of my life, I'm better able to just leave my phone alone and not have to look at it. So it's really cool to start seeing that in different ways too. But when you think about, like, I really want to dig into some of the stuff that she talks about in the book in terms of like knowing you, because I think this will help trigger a few things. And I'm excited that you haven't read it.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'm
want to see what all your
tell me more. Tell me all the things.
But when we go back to thinking about like knowing who you are, she talks about, you know, like, are you an early riser or are you a night owl? Because like some people just are naturally one, or most of us are naturally one or the other. So if you're a night owl, don't tell yourself you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like, it seems like, so well, that makes sense. But like, I think a lot of people try to do that differently.
Well, they also see what other people are doing. So for example, the working out in the morning. I had a friend that is a night owl and she's like, oh, well, that's the best time. And it's funny because I've talked to a bunch of people that are in that industry, and they say there is no such thing as the perfect time. Just get out
time
there and
is
move.
when it works for you.
Exactly. So and that's funny that you say that, because why would you work against your natural rhythm, especially like that would just make it even harder to build that habit.
Yes.
To fight the natural rhythm.
Big time. Another cool one is, are you a marathoner, a sprinter, or a procrastinator? Let me guess.
Well, I would say I'm a procrastinator. I feel like you're a sprinter.
I think I'm a mix of sprinter or procrastinator.
You can't be both, Juliet.
I want to be. Yeah, but I like to do things in a short amount of time. So like if I have a month to do a project, like I'm going to do it in the last, I keep hitting my mic, in the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, I feel like that I'm more sharp and I'm more like, just like feet to the fire. I was like, what's one of these like terms that I'm trying to look at?
We really got to get better at our slogans and sayings.
I think feet to the fire is one, isn't it? Hold your feet to the fire?
Maybe. I don't know.
We grew up in different places.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, we see a little bit of that for both of us. But some people like are marathoners and they just want to pick away, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day for a long period of time as they're working on a project or something like that.
I do that all the time, actually. When it comes to work, I'm a marathoner.
Okay.
I will which is, they always say not to do it, but I'll go from task to task to task. But I don't like to work on one task for a long time. Because or else it just too much.
Yeah, you lose your creativity.
I guess maybe I am more of in between. But I'm a procrastinator when it comes to things like working out. It's different kinds of habits.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's cool just to get to know yourself. And then are you an underbuyer or an overbuyer?
In what sense?
So
give me an example.
My story about you is that you're an overbuyer.
Uh-oh.
Because when you started your meditating, what did you buy?
Oh.
What you're sitting on right now.
Yeah. I like to be prepared for everything and anything.
Yeah. But if you know that you're an overbuyer, if you're more likely to instill a new habit because you buy the gadget or the thing or whatever that goes with it, and you're an overbuyer, then just buy it.
Yeah.
But an underbuyer would really resist
the purchase,
right,
to be like, oh, do I really need this to start out with it?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm I need the yoga mat. I need the meditation mat because it'll make it so much more zen.
But there might be something that you really do need. If you say you're going to start lifting weights, you're going to have to buy the weights.
True.
If you don't have them. But if you're an underbuyer, you may really resist that and hesitate and hold yourself back from building that habit because of it.
Interesting.
Right? So it's kind of cool to see which side you land on, and there might be different. Gretchen Rubin says that she's an overbuyer. She likes buying the things. You know,
you would be an underbuyer. You're very conscious about.
I used to be an overbuyer.
Interesting. So you can change these as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a habit in itself of your natural what you do.
Instincts.
Yeah.
Big time.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
And then there's a simplicity lover or an abundance lover.
Okay. I'm a Taurus, so naturally I like abundance. I like my things. I like to be surrounded by people I love. I like to keep everything.
I feel like you're feeling attacked in all of these questions.
I'm so attacked right now.
It's just self-awareness is all we're looking for, right? Okay. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad.
Okay.
It's just who you are. I'm just trying to get you up here. Don't make yourself bad for it. I'm just going to throw my microphone across the room. The next one is really cool, too, is are you a finisher or an opener?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Do you really like to start new things and get really excited about that? Or do you love the act of finishing a task?
Ooh, that's a really hard one to answer. What are you?
I'm an opener.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. You're
Yeah. When something becomes really familiar or just run of the mill, same, I get bored.
Fair.
So I like to start something new. I even my old VP from Calgary told me this too. I was working on a big project. We were opening this brand new offsite center. I was the project manager on it, which that was like a great role for me to be in because it's like I get to work on this project. I did finish those projects too. I didn't just leave them. But then I could like go on to the next thing, right? It wasn't a forever deal. But this particular one, we had hired a manager who was going to run this center and they didn't work out. And then we were like just around the corner from needing to open it. There wasn't really enough time to train someone new. I knew it in and out. So I was like, why don't I just go there? Like, take me out of this role, put me over there. I'll do this. And he was like, you're going to be bored in a month. Why would I do that? And so, you know, and that was very telling of me. And I think I'll always remember that. And it's true.
Yeah. And then someone knew that of you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, spoiler alert, I did do it.
Yeah.
But we did it on the caveat that I will take it and we will start recruiting right now for my replacement. And then, so we worked all that out. But it was true. Like, it could have been, if he didn't know me well enough to say that, they might have put me in that role and then I might have ended up being miserable like 3 months in.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what I would be because I feel really good when I finish a task. Like when I finish a website, I actually have a celebratory glass of wine. I know you're not supposed to drink for like celebrations and stuff like that, but like I like it. Like it feels so rigging good. I just love it. But at the same time, starting like you're saying, like you'd get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. I might be the opposite though, because I do have a couple clients that even though yes, we do pretty much the same thing all the time, I just love working with them. And it's a comfortability. I like to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And knowing that I have these people to kind of always go back on as well is kind of a comfort. So maybe that could be part of it too. But so yeah, I feel like I'm in the middle of those because yeah, that's a really tricky one, Julianne.
It is. And it could, again, with like any of these, you could be one way in certain things and another way in other things. So it's just like now that you know these things, I'll be curious to hear like, are you starting to notice things about yourself after we record this, right? So you'll have to keep me posted on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, this one's great for you.
Uh-oh.
Familiarity or novelty?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Give me an example. What's an example?
So like, do you love like everything familiar to you? So like, if you're going to go walk cashew, do you do the same route all the time, or would you like to go somewhere different all the time? There's like a very simple everyday example.
Yeah, definitely familiar then. Very much so. I like the way things are. I don't like change. So I feel like, yeah, familiar would be.
Because novelty would just be like something different or, you know, like changing it
new
up or whatever.
And stuff. You'd be novelty. You like to try new things.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do we get the same result then? If we're still so different in this,
But here's the thing. So we're learning this about ourselves in all of this, but the thing that's like the type that we are, the tendency that we are is all about how we hold ourselves accountable and forming those habits. Right?
Okay.
So we could be all of these, like, you know, we could be different on all of these, but still both be the obligers that we are.
Okay.
Right? So like if I like to wake up early, but you like to stay up late and everything else is opposite. I know you don't. But I need someone else to hold me accountable and so do you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where it's still like same, but yeah. So there's two more of these, which are both really cool too. Are you promotion focused? So like, do you like achievement and advancement, so on and so forth? Or are you prevention focused, where you avoid loss or minimize danger, pain, whatever?
Definitely prevention. Definitely prevention. It always goes back. I want to make everyone happy. It's one of my biggest flaws, I guess you could say, because I do I just want to make sure if someone's ever upset, I'm always like, oh, how could I have done this better? What did I do? What can I focus on?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that was easy.
Prevention. Yeah. And then small steps or big steps?
I would like to say big steps, but I think realistically I'm more so small steps.
Yeah, that's fair. I can be both, I think.
Can you?
Depending. But yeah, so like I think like in the last 10 minutes or so, like we learned a lot about each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these are the great things to think about when you're trying to build a habit. So like if you like small steps, you're not going to build a habit like all in one big chunk. Like how could you take what you're trying to build and break it into maybe like 5 or 6 little steps?
That makes sense. Okay. It's all coming together. I'm like, why are we doing all these questions? So yeah, if you're listening or watching, you could also answer the questions for yourself as well. Which category do you fit in, and how does it affect the way you form habits? I think that's really cool. Okay, I see what you did there. Look at that.
It's not me, it's Gretchen. I'm just like
you're reiterating,
the medium.
The middle person.
Just the messenger here, because I love it. I think this has been one of the coolest habits books that I've read. That really just puts things into perspective of really knowing yourself. In terms of how habits are created.
So you mentioned a couple times tendencies. She has 4 tendencies.
Correct.
That you could possibly be. Do you want to talk more about those?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give kind of the high level of what each of them are. So first one is upholders.
Okay.
And that's actually what Gretchen Rubin is. And
interesting.
That is just the ability to hold yourself accountable and get things done. Like they build habits very, very, very easily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I was that.
You are exactly what you need to be, Steph.
I suppose.
Another one is the questioner. So they will really drill into like, why do I need to be doing this? They'll ask a lot of questions about it. And as long as they get a sound reasoning, then they too could pretty easily build a new habit as long as they connect with why it needs to be done.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So the questioner is that one. And then the obliger, which both of you and I are.
Yep.
And we really strive with external accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. Which okay, I'm going to tell you the other one first, and then we'll come back and talk about being obligers.
Yeah,
How's that sound? Okay. Because I feel like this is going to go crazy.
Okay.
And then the fourth one being the rebel.
Ooh,
So
yes.
they just do things the way they want to.
I know so many of those people.
And if you tell a rebel to do something, chances are they're not going to.
Yeah.
Right. So they just have to, they go by the beat of their own drum.
Yeah.
They do things as they feel they want to. And they might be less likely to have really consistent long-term habits, but more like shorter-term things or change it up, whatnot, because they just want to do whatever they want because they're rebels.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So those are the 4 different tendencies, which is kind of cool. I too didn't want to be an obliger.
I was gonna say, I remember you told me that you took the test first and you were kind of fidgeting the answers because you're like, I know this is what's gonna happen. So you edited your first test.
The second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
I did it the first time before I read the book.
Oh, okay.
Because in the mastermind, I'm in a personal growth mastermind that meets once a month, and we all took our tendencies and came and talked about them. And Tasha, who like runs the mastermind, was the only one who was reading the book. So I knew nothing about it, which was probably the best way to do it.
That's true.
To be honest.
Yeah. So I wasn't looking for answers when I was doing mine.
Exactly. Yeah. So I became an obliger. I found out I'm an obliger. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it again after I read the book, just out of curiosity. But then it's just too easy to manipulate the questions and know where they might go.
Like, I want to be like this.
I showed up as a questioner the second time, but I know that's not fully true because it's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But it's tough because we're entrepreneurs who don't have a boss to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
Yet we need external accountability to get shit done.
I was going to say, that's kind of effed up when you really think about it. We should all be the rebels, if anything. Like,
or the
upholders. Yeah. I guess.
Life would just be so easy if I was an upholder.
Yeah. I was going to say, because that is one thing that I always struggle with is accountability. Because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm going to take the day off today because I could always push this project for tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yep.
The deadline's still on Friday, I'm just talking hypothetical now, but the deadline's still on Friday, but I could have got it done earlier if I just did it, because I don't have a person saying, it's your job to do this right now.
But let's go back.
Ooh.
You said you're a procrastinator.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's all coming together.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's really, if you can think of specific examples like that and really look at all those different nuances that we talked about, are you this or are you that? I think that can help you understand it. And then we can learn to accept ourselves for the way that we are instead of making it bad that we're obligers. There's nothing wrong with being an obliger. Yeah. We just need to learn how to work it to our advantage.
I say it's never a bad thing to care more about, because that's another thing too that I read, that you care a lot, like you put others first and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not a bad thing, especially when it comes to running a business too. So yes, we don't have the accountability, but we do have the other aspects of it, which I think the other tendency, which I think is kind of, I don't know.
Well, and like you would have the accountability in the sense that you guaranteed a client that you were going to get something done by this time.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh
like
yeah. I would never.
That is a form of accountability. So work-wise, that might help in certain ways, but no one's holding you accountable to
my own
doing your own marketing or branding, like keeping up on your social media, like things like that are for your business. Like that was some of the notes that I wrote I'm really good at working in my business and showing up for my clients super prepared and like great and ready for our sessions together. But when it comes to like, I've been meaning to update my website for how long now?
So you've been procrastinating on your website. I know, because you keep asking about it.
But in my entrepreneur forum, we all agreed to a commitment or like we wanted to hold each other accountable because we're all entrepreneurs and we don't have people doing that. So at the end of our session, we each named something that we were going to come back to the next session having done. And mine's my website.
Uh-oh.
So let's go.
Yeah, you got
But
this.
now that I have other people holding me accountable,
you're going to do it.
I'm more likely to get it done.
Yeah.
I am going to get it done.
Yeah, you are going to get it done. Yeah.
I did start it the other day, though. I need some expert advice, though.
Yeah.
I'm not the best.
Luckily, you know someone. Yeah.
Look at that be.
So cheesy.
Yeah. But yeah, so think, and then when we think about being obligers as well, in our personal lives, like, too, there's not necessarily, like, no one's holding you accountable to get your workout done.
No. Especially if I don't like working out. Why would I want to go do it when, there's nobody holding me accountable?
Yeah. So, like, I think a big part for me is, like, I post all the time that I did my workout.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
your
a form
accountability.
of accountability.
Okay. And would you say that you wouldn't do it if you didn't post it? But you've already formed that habit, though. Like, you're a working out person.
Yeah.
In my eyes.
For the most part. Yeah. Yeah. The last little bit, I've been less, but I'm also realizing I don't have to work out 7 days a week.
Yeah.
This old crickety body of mine, it needs some more rest. It doesn't move like it did 10 years ago.
Yeah. But then that's when you start getting to the other habits that are more beneficial for you right now. So, like, like you said, I saw today, doing more yoga.
Yeah.
Doing more stretching. You know what I mean? Taking the time for a massage. And again, it always goes back to self-care. Developing habits is not only like work habits, but also self-care habits, because it is so true that we sometimes get into the grind per se, and then all of a sudden you haven't taken any time for yourself in the last 3 weeks, month, almost 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you start developing even that one habit of every week, I'm going to do one thing for myself, that could be a really good start too. Because I think that's a thing too. There's a big misconception. Even when I read the Atomic Habits book, when I borrowed it from you, I was thinking, oh, that means I'm going to have to do all these things right away, and they're going to be big things. A habit to me, for some reason, was always big things in my mind. It's like working out. You know what I mean? Oh, that's a big habit because I want to look a certain way. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of interesting,
Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier is you like small steps.
Yeah.
So if the goal, like looking at what the end goal is, how can you scale that back into smaller steps to start and make that a habit, and then increase it and make that a habit, right? Like whether it's working out or other things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Just knowing you. Know yourself.
Know what you are.
But I love what you said, like self-care. It's nice to do some sort of daily self-care something.
Yeah.
But something maybe a little more extravagant.
Yeah.
Once a week would be cool too. Right? If that could be a habit.
Setting up like a really cool, crazy bath with like extra expensive Epsom salts or something. You know what I mean? With candles. Like I think a little bit of indulgences can never hurt anybody, especially that time. Because yes, we can do, like you said, like daily self-care, doing the face routine, like a skincare routine. And that's general skincare, but there's also the indulgent skincare, I think, too, that I think feels really good. Getting a massage, especially if you do work out a lot and you do feel like you're hitting like some crinkly parts, then like
I was doing my overhead presses today, and I could like hear like just a weird noise in my shoulder, and I was like, oh
no.
I do have a massage coming up very soon. I'm very excited.
Oh, nice. Oh, so jealous.
Yeah, it's needed. But yeah, I am learning to accept the obliger in me.
Yeah.
And to be okay with it. And then also figure out, okay, so how do I now work this to my advantage?
How do
instead
I
of resisting who I am, the essence of me, and pretending it's not, because that's not going to make me successful.
No. And it's not sustainable to do that too, because then you're just, it's not sustainable.
No, it's not. So in terms of like getting things done, like with my business especially, it's, do I need an accountability partner that I call once a week and say, okay, here's the things that I'm going to get done this week when we check in, and then they tell me the same, and then next week we check in. Like I've talked about doing that with a friend of mine. We didn't actually do it. But now I know like that actually is something I probably could really benefit from.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really shocked when I got the results. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. Because like even when I read the other titles for the tendencies, I'm like, these don't even apply to me. I know I'm a obliger, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Another big thing that I found for me is I'm really good at doing something when there's a deadline.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a reason why I put deadlines. I have to put them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my website, for instance, right? Like I don't have a deadline for it. It's something that I want to work on.
But it's so hard to put a deadline on your own things. Yeah. Because like even I'm doing that. I have a whole entire recorded video to put on Summer Street Creative, and it's a really good video. It's one of my most requested videos. And I know it'll do good once it's there, and I know people are wanting to see it, but I'm like, oh, well, my client really needs me right now. And, oh, they wanted this, like, right now. So I'm going to do this right now for them. And, again, it's always that putting that there. But then I feel bad, it's working on my own business and it's funny because I know I coach people this all the time, that you do have to work on your business as much as you work in your business, because yes, you have clients now, but you're thinking of your clients in the future clients. How are they going to find you if you're not putting anything out there? And that's the biggest thing, because I know it's wrong and I know I need to do it, but it's just I just need a second me. Can we is that a thing? Cloning.
Well, what habits could you create to make more space to get that done?
Okay, so this is the funniest part. Well, it's not funny. It's really sad, actually. So a couple, maybe like a month and a half ago, I actually attempted to segment my weeks. So I had like Mondays are Thriving Tides days, which I'm still actually sticking to. Like I still only work on Thriving, because it is a lot of work to edit the video and the episode as well. And then do those social media. It's a lot of work. It takes a full day. Full disclosure, if you're starting a podcast, just to know, it does take a lot of work.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
But it's a lot of work.
But it's a lot of work. Yeah. And so like Mondays are just Thriving Tides days, whereas Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I was just going to have for just Summer Street Creative. And that also includes my like coaching, when I do brand coaching as well. And then Fridays were going to be either like my passive income, my book, or Summer Street Creative stuff that is not related to my business, or to my clients.
Yeah.
But is related to my business.
Right.
So those are like the 3. And it's funny because like my passive income, the poor thing has been collecting dust. I'm still luckily getting like customers every once in a while. But imagine if I did put the time into it, if I could get even more of a passive income, then maybe I could hire the person. I digress, but Fridays are now going back to clients. I've been trying to, segment it back, but then again, someone's begging me to get this done because they really want to make this social media post or they really want to get this out before the weekend. And so then here I am editing my time. And I thought that was really interesting that like, sure enough, I'm obliging to like, oh yes, you need this more. Okay, I'm going to make sure that you are taken care of.
Yeah.
But for myself, I should be taking the Fridays like I keep telling myself I'm going to do.
Well, and it's
So
interesting listening to you say that because you've been really great at maintaining the Mondays, but you know that the episode has to go out on Wednesday. So you have a deadline.
Exactly.
Right. So something that's really holding you to it. But with your other stuff,
no. And plus I also have you too, because like you're my co-host, you're the partner in this. So like for me, like I'd be letting you down if I didn't get the episode out. You know what I mean? Whereas, yeah, it's true. Like my Fridays, it's only me and technically no one knows that I recorded that video until now.
Well, yeah. So friends, let's all bug Steph until she gets that video into the world.
But it's true though. Like there's no accountability, and yes, it'll feel great when it's out there, but at the same time I'm okay with being comfortable in I can just put that later, or that could be a later project.
Yeah,
it's always later. I have so many later projects, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm gonna go back I keep going back to what you said earlier, but you're prevention focused.
Yeah,
so you're going to avoid loss or minimize clients being upset or whatever by saying yes and taking it on and giving up the time that you wanted otherwise, where if you were promotion focused, you would be getting that out there and doing it.
It's all,
So it's not a bad thing, but it's just recognizing, okay, of course you're doing it this way. Yeah. You're prevention focused. You don't want people pissed off at you, and you're an obliger. Yeah. Like, that's a double whammy, Stephanie.
Oh, man.
It makes total sense. But maybe, so now, like, how does it feel now that you've told us about this video? Like, does that put pressure on you? Does that change anything now that it's out in the world?
Yes and no. Because I still haven't put, like, a deadline to it. I said that it's existent and that it still needs to get done. Yeah. But, like, at the same time, I know there's not, it sounds bad, but there's that gratification. It's not an instant gratification. No. I do notice, like, my analytics, yes, some people really appreciate it. And I do actually gain a lot of clients because they'll go back into my old blog posts and old videos and watch it all and be like, oh, I learned so many things, But when I put something out, I don't get the numbers that I'm looking for right now. And I know that if I were to get the numbers, it'd be a little bit different, but that's okay because I'm thinking of the long game. And also it's really good for search engine optimization to also put a blog post, but that's a whole other bag of worms.
We should do an SEO episode.
Oh gosh, that'll be a technical episode.
Yeah. I will bring my notebook.
Yeah, all the notes, scratch.
Yeah. But I'm thinking too, like you're talking about like long game and things like that. So there's your small step showing up again.
That's true. Right? Yeah. Like I do know I need to do it. I just have to take the little steps. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like I think, I need to take the whole day to edit the video. Maybe I edit the video in sections. Maybe that's what I need to implement. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought of actually like changing that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Like, and you said too, you're like, I like to work on this for a little bit and then this for a little bit and this for a little bit. So maybe you just take that same approach with the things that you're working on on your business.
True.
Too. Mm-hmm. Right. Look at all the stuff we're learning.
I was going to say, now I just need to also implement all this in my personal life too. And I'll just be a whole new person.
No, I like you though. Well, what are you struggling with in your personal life then?
Oh man, well it's funny because when we talked about this this episode, I wrote down like habits I'm trying to incorporate. So one thing is the consistent movement, actually being consistent with it, because I am really bad at oh, I can take the day off here and there, you know, like I still do it and it's good that I'm still doing it. Before I would have just been like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's just that it's not as consistent as I'd like it to be. I do have goals, right? And another one is waking up earlier. I would like to be more of a morning person because I'm not a night owl. When we talk about those things, I'm not a night owl. So if I'm a morning person, why don't I wake up early?
I love sleep.
And it's funny because I think another one that we both had was like eating and cooking and pre-planning our meals a little bit more too. I think those kinds of habits, the more life-focused habits, like of not just like the superficial aspects of it, but actually taking care. Because as we are getting older, we do need to think about these things, right? And another one is the less social media, because I don't know if you guys watched the latest video I put out there, and it's all about the social dilemma. Go watch it right now. Ever since I watched that and did that video, I've been implementing those strategies and tips that I give out in that video, and it's really helped so far, but I'm still not perfect.
Yeah. And so easy to get sucked in.
It's so easy.
And that's the point. Like that's how they designed it.
Exactly.
They're not dumb.
They're not good at breaking that habit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough. It's I resonate with all the things that you're saying. And I've the hard thing for me is that I've had habits in the past that have been like really solid and really great. Mm-hmm. And then I take them for granted. And then they like fall to the wayside. And then to get them back, it's like starting all over again. Yeah. It's really frustrating.
Well, that's like me with like working out. Mm-hmm. I'll make like progress and lose weight, and then I'll get too complacent. And then all of a sudden it's that like the yo-yo, like I don't do fad diets, but I yo-yo in the sense that I like go up and down of, oh, stress, not stress. Oh, working out, not working out. You know what I mean? So I totally resonate with what you're saying, that like it's so much harder to get back onto it too. Yeah. Because then you got comfortable in that other habit of not doing that thing that was difficult.
Yeah, the doing nothing is a habit too. Oh. Because we're replacing that with something.
Staying safe, staying in the comfortability. Because it is a little bit of a discomfort to try new things and create habits, especially habits that feel foreign to you. Like I honestly don't think I'm made to work out. Like I just don't like it.
But yoga's a workout.
It is, but it's different. Like I'm not. It's okay. It's the jumping. I don't like jumping.
That's fair.
I don't like jumping, but you know what I mean. Like that. Yeah. It's a hard habit for me. And then there's some people that it's hard to quit bad habits. So like one of them is like smoking, for example. That's a bad habit. That it's really hard to break because you get really comfortable in it. And it's scary not to because it's a comfort.
Yeah.
Right?
Big time.
Same with like any kind of addiction and stuff. Like
think about like all the different triggers that you have in the world that make you want to do it. Like there's, people who, I have a smoke with my morning coffee, or I have a smoke when I have a drink, or, like this, there's so many things that normalize it for you in your day to day.
Exactly.
That you're not going to not have, I'm not going to not have my coffee anymore, right? Like if I were like, if that was something that's connected, pairing can be a really great way to enforce a new habit. True. But because of that pairing, it can also make it very difficult to get rid of a bad habit or a habit that you're trying to break.
That's true. Yeah.
They talk about that in the books too, right? Like if you're trying to build something new, add it onto something you already do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Which, maybe it could be chug a glass of water and brush your teeth, right? If you're trying to drink more water, if that's a new habit, that seems to be a big one that a lot of people try to do.
Yeah, or carry those big ass water bottles.
I used to. Oh man, I got made fun of so bad. I would go meeting to meeting to meeting all day long. Yeah. And I would take my little Lululemon bag with all my snacks in it and a big 2-liter jug of water. And I'd have my laptop and my notebook, and I would just be zipping around the office going all these different places.
Gosh. Plus, when do you have bathroom breaks if you're carrying that big ass thing?
I'd be
I was
the worst. I was very strategic in okay, so I'm here now and I got to go to this meeting, and okay, I know where this washroom is. I had it all figured out to a science. Yeah. It helped though. Yeah. Because then I didn't also have to stop and fill up my water, because I had it on me, right? So it's just like making it easy for ourselves when we're trying to build a new habit is so key.
And that's what they talk about in, James talks about in Atomic Habits as well. And that's what the one takeaway that I had that I really, really liked was that you're setting systems instead of goals.
Yeah.
So like actually setting a process. So I think we mentioned it a couple episodes ago about putting the workout clothes out to make it easier than, oh, I can't find my workout clothes right now, I'm tired. Or putting the coffee on the day before so that, you know, when I have my coffee, that means it triggers the next step that I need to do.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was kind of cool. Love because, that. So many people have goals. And then once you reach a goal means that there's an ending. Whereas setting a system means that this is life as a system. Like, we're very consistent people, you know. A lot of us do like the monotonous day to day. You know what I mean? We're not all rebels.
But I'm a rebel without a cause.
Yeah. I want to be a rebel.
Well, it's funny you say that because something that really stood out for me in the Better Than Before book was some people really, though, are serial goal setters.
Yeah.
Versus habit formers.
Interesting.
So that's something to think about too. I feel like I'm that way with certain things. So I'm a goal setter like when it comes to running. I will run and I will train very vigorously if I have a race. If I do not have a race, I do not run.
Yeah.
I just don't. And as soon as that, like, I will be consistently like, and was the same like 10 years ago when I started running too. Like I know when my race is, so that's my goal. I'm going to train. After my first half marathon, I think I took like 3 years off from running.
Wow.
But I would still call myself, yeah, I'm a runner.
I'm a runner, yeah.
I'm a runner. I just don't run
marathons.
currently.
It's cool.
But so I think in some ways in my life, I certainly really am a serial goal setter where I'm like, okay, I want to go achieve this thing. And then I get it done. And then the next time it comes up again, then I'll like kind of kick myself up again. But yeah, it's weird, right?
Interesting.
That's kind of a cool distinction too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I make excuses. Like I saw people out running in the dark and in the cold on my way here tonight. I was just like,
silly.
Like, what's wrong with those people?
It's cold.
But at the same time, I'm very envious that you have that dedication and, you know, whatever. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it is possible to just set goals. I think depending on the type of person you are, though, the systems and the habit forming would be more successful.
True. Because
the goals is the start, stop, right? Which can make it very difficult.
Yeah. And then there's people like me that you say the word goal and I'm like, that's cool. You know,
I'm out.
Yeah. Like goals, it sounds bad, but goals don't mean anything to me. Like, I don't know. It's more so the end result. Like, what's in it for me? Not more so like the gratification of finishing a goal.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I'll write down a goal list, but it's not I need to get it done goal list, which is interesting. Whereas like some people, it's like, if I'm going to write it down in my goal book, it's going to get done.
Going in the goal book. This is real stuff.
That's a thing, right? I don't know. But
could be. But like, are your goals more like dreams? Like, not to say that they're not going to come true, but like, are they more like what would a goal be for you? What's an example you're willing to share? Yeah,
so just like an old goal was before my wedding, I wanted to lose weight. We all do when we get married.
Seems to be a theme.
It's the theme. It's a general goal, but I also just didn't really care. My dress fit the way it was. If I did lose weight, thank you. If I did lose weight, like I was going in for a second fitting, so I could have gotten edited. That's how it works,
Podcast
right?
brain.
Yeah, podcast brain.
Edit this dress.
Copy paste. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, so that was like a big goal for me. But at the same time, did I get up every morning to work out? Hell no. Did I really, pain myself for not getting up and doing the workouts or even fitting a workout in? Not really. It would have been nice to, aesthetically would be nice to have different photos, and there's some photos and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look that great. But at the same time, there's a lot of great photos that I'm just like, oh, that photo can just be deleted. You know what I mean? that for me was not, and it's huge because it is like one of the biggest days, but even then that still wasn't enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that always goes back down to like, I need that third party part of it in a way.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Or
that's
your
a big
reason
thing.
why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if it sounds like James would never do this, but if James said, I think we should both lose weight for a wedding just so that we both feel really comfortable. And I know you've been saying that you want to lose weight. Let's do it. I would be like, okay, great. And I would actually do it because he's holding me accountable and he wants me to do it.
Yeah.
Which I know like he would never do that. But so it's kind of weird that I wonder if I had a reward, what that would be like. You know what I mean? I think we talk about that a couple times. And I know in some of these books, there's always the aspect of a reward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the reward could have been, I look good on my photos, but obviously that wasn't a
big enough
reward for me, apparently.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I wanted to bring rewards back in too. So thank you for that. Because you mentioned like even at the beginning, giving yourself a glass of wine to finish a website, right? Yeah. Like that's a reward for you or whatever. The thing is with rewards is sometimes that impacts why we're doing the habit. So if you're doing it just to get the reward, it's not really solidifying the habit in the same way.
That's true. Yeah, because then you're not keeping, it's just a goal. It's just something that you're going to finish.
Yeah.
And then end. It's not.
And sometimes too, like there's not, so like Gretchen Rubin's really strong about like, when you build a habit, you're taking the decision out of things. Like you just know you're going to do it. It becomes that automatic cue, right? Like we were talking about at the beginning with like brushing your teeth. It's just something you do.
Yeah.
When you have to add in a decision, you're kind of obstructing that flow. So with a reward, sometimes it's very clear, like, yes, I finished this website. I get the glass of wine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But sometimes there's a decision, like if you're like, I'm going to, if I work out really hard this week, I'm going to let myself get pizza on Friday. What is working out hard? What does that look like? Yeah. Then you have to make that decision. Did I really earn this? Did I not? Like you're kind of muddying the waters a little bit. And that's where things can get really tricky when we're tying those rewards to the habit. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And then it also, like going back to the goals we were just talking about, it gives you that risk of like, what's that finish line, right? Are you now being like, okay, I'm done? Which in some cases it is. Like if you finish a client's website and that's all that you were contracted to do, you are done. That is your finish line. That's true. What it is. But with habits that we're trying to create in our day to day, if we're like, okay, we're doing that. And it's so easy always to come back to like physical health and weight loss and all that kind of stuff because I feel like many people can relate in some way to it.
Totally.
But if it's, I'm going to be really good, and I'd say that in quotations because I hate that. Yeah. All week and get my workouts in and eat the way that I, know helps me feel my best. And my reward for that is going to be a big indulgence on the weekend. You're probably undoing all the great work that habit was there for as well.
I was going to say, yeah, because then you're just going back into, oh, that felt really good. I want to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's, I don't know, I'm sure someone could argue me and say, well, at least you're doing the things, like,
true,
regardless of what the activity or the habit is and what the reward is, like, at least if you're doing it, you get the reward. What's the harm in that? But I just feel like it's a slippery slope. Yeah. So like have the glass of wine if you want it, but don't tie it to the habit. Just have it because you want to have a freaking glass of wine.
Yeah. And that's
Call Leslie and say, what should I be drinking tonight? She'll tell you.
Recommend me a bottle.
Or just check her Instagram because she's always sharing a great bottle. But, just do it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Rather than falling into that risk of like making it a reward and then like kind of just screwing things up for yourself, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. I do kind of like that because I think, sometimes we do get a little bit too comfortable in treating ourselves. And it's so contradictory to self-care because we always say indulge in the thing, but then also make sure that you're still taking care of it. It's so strange. And I'm definitely excited to eventually read that book to kind of get a little bit more of a grasp and a sense of it. But I feel like I can now develop some more habits, especially since I've kind of slacked on my habits in the last little while. And I do kind of want to touch on this too. So recently in my life, unfortunately, I've been hitting a lot of roadblocks. Some family stuff happened, and it literally came out of nowhere. And it's funny because I was starting to really get into the habit of doing yoga. My morning routine was probably the best. I was waking up and not like I could get out of bed and be excited to get out of bed. Everything was going so great. And of course, as soon as everything started going super great, 2020 happened, and it was like, no, you're not allowed to be happy right now. No. And unfortunately, stuff happens. And I think that's another thing too, is to be easy on yourself. I know when that, like, especially after the initial impact of what my family and I, what we heard, I was starting to get kind of angry and upset at myself for not doing the things that I know are going to make me feel better. But I was in such a moment of grief that I knew that even if I did meditate and if I did do the yoga, yes, it would make me feel a little bit better, but I also know that I wasn't ready for it yet. And I think there's another thing too that I always want to kind of touch on, is that life does happen, and we can plan as much as we want, but at the same time, you have to listen to what you need right now. And if it is crying in your room by yourself and just being, I feel like that's okay too. And shit happens, and it's finding a way to adapt to it. Just like we say with self-care, you're going to adapt your self-care routines. You're going to adapt how you run your business. Shit happens, and you kind of just have to keep going at it. So like right now I'm in the process of taking the small steps to rebuild my habits. I'm not perfect. I'm still waking up at 8 o'clock in the mornings nowadays, even though before I was waking up at 6:30. I do my yoga sometimes. But again, some days are really hard to wake up because I'm still living in it right now, and I think that's okay. Maybe not. I don't know. But right now, it's nice to be in my comfortable habits. It's nice to be in my habits that make me feel, I don't even know the word I want to use, but they're just comfortable. It's the distractions I can, which.
And I think that's totally fair. Like sometimes we need to give priority to what self-care we need, depending on what's going on in our lives. So, and self-care in this case might be a big long nap.
Yeah.
Or it might be just like laying on the couch and zoning out to Netflix or YouTube videos. Because I know you love those.
Actually, I've been binging Netflix.
Look at you.
Yeah, look
Changing
at me.
It up.
Expanding.
Right? But, that's, and that's okay. And like, eventually, I know you'll be ready to just face it and deal with it and whatnot. But when big things happen in our lives,
life-changing things
we're not
happen.
always ready for that. And we call this, like in coaching, we talk a lot about it like being your drift. So it's whatever's taking you out of presence, whatever's of helping you avoid facing what is happening right now. But we drift all the time. Yeah. And that's okay. And sometimes you just need to stay in it and give yourself full permission instead of making yourself bad for it. And know that your habits will be there when you're ready to come back to them.
Exactly.
So just give yourself that grace and just really like amp up that self-care in whatever way you need it right now.
Grace. I love that. Yeah, because I have been like indulging in my self-care, like baths almost every other night. Oh man, it's pretty bad. And
no, it's
for
good.
me, like
it's really good is what you should be saying.
Yeah, I should be saying that it's really good. Yeah, things like even like baking. I love baking. And so, yes, I do give half of it away, but at the same time, we still have it. And even though I probably shouldn't be doing it because one of my goals is to look a certain way, it makes me happy.
It's your comfort right now.
It's my comfort right now. And I that's why I really wanted to touch on it, because I feel like sometimes, especially society, it feels like if you're not doing the thing all the time, you're bad. And it's so true that I'm telling myself that I'm bad. I don't think I'm bad, but subconsciously I'm always saying, oh, because I'm not doing the thing that I'm therefore bad. And I caught when you said that, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even catch myself. I didn't realize I was saying that I was bad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
You're not.
Well.
Bad to the bone.
Bad to the bone. I'm a rebel.
But yeah, it's trusting your life. Like, I mean, also, so that's a big life thing that you're facing unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But like, hopefully one day again, we'll go on vacations.
Yeah.
So that'll happen. And that's going to break your habit cycle probably, right? You're not going to do the same things when you're away on vacation, things like that. But that doesn't mean that you've completely abandoned them and you're never going to come back. So
True.
If we're really taking the time to build habits in the way that sticks for us, depending on the type of person that we are and what we really need, a short little vacation from it, for whatever reason, isn't going to completely derail our lives forever.
Exactly.
So we just have to trust ourselves. And yeah, it might be a little bit harder to get back at it, but it's going to happen. Know what you need to hold you accountable, whether you need someone else or if you're able to hold yourself accountable, whatever it is, you'll get there again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I said, I'm already starting to slowly build the small steps into implementing that too. And yeah, I think that's all we can do.
Exactly. Absolutely. And yeah, it's forever changing. Like I look at my habits. Sometimes I forget things that are even habits. So, but I definitely am a lot more insightful in who I am and how I form them now that I've done this deep dive. And I think that's going to help me be just more successful or more in tune moving forward.
More mindful too. Yeah. You can call yourself out when you're starting to go into a certain, comfortability or
or like catch myself and know, okay, like I'm really slacking on this. I know I'm an obliger. Who can I tell? Who can hold me accountable? What's that going to look like? And,
Exactly.
We have to be willing to just put ourselves out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. And we would love to pass it off to you guys as well. Are you an avid habit taker? Have you read this book and taken the test? What are you? Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah. What habits do you love that you're super proud of?
I was going to say, yeah, that'd be a good one. And do you guys have any tips as well for keep maintaining habits? And
all the things.
All the things. We just love to heir from you guys.
We're very passionate about this topic.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. Like, I feel like we could keep going on for another 2 hours, but I feel like you guys would get bored listening.
Truth.
But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening and or watching on the YouTube. Yeah.
Yay. Go habits. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Thriving Tides. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected. And remember, don't fight the rip currents.